So for a warm-up, try to do these in your head or on paper just by simplifying without a calculator. Reduce, multiply, rationalize that denominator, add or subtract or divide. So feel free to please pause the video as you practice these problems before I work on the solutions. Hopefully that was enough time for you to do that work. Hopefully you paused it and took a look at it, but we're going to do each of these real quick, so just try to remember how to reduce all these. So you're looking for those things that can be canceled out. So 12 over 16, that reduces because each of these has a 4 that goes into it. So there'd be a 3/4 left as you cancel out that, so your answer would be 3/4 reduced. 8 over 12 and x squared over 2, so this squared is going to cancel out with that x, and then for the 8 over 12, you've got a 4 which also goes into each of those, and so that means there'd be 2 left and 3 left, so your answer would be 2x over 3. And as we look at multiplying these, so multiplying fractions is no problem. Multiply the top, multiply the bottom. Now you can also do some reducing here before you do that multiplication, so I'll show you that process. 4 goes into 4, of course, and it goes into 8 twice, which means that also as you take a look at that, you have the 2 and the 2, which would cancel. So really what you have on top is 1 on top over 3. And you can do that same thing even if you have your x squareds and x to the 4th. You can cancel out those correct things. So x squared is all going to cancel out with 2 of those 4s. There's still 2 left. And then as far as the numbers, 12 divided by 3 would be 4. And then 4 over 8 itself can also reduce. So 4 divided by 8, there's a 2 left. And then the 2 and the 2 would actually end up canceling. So all this ends up being is 1 over x squared. Now, of course, you could just multiply across the top and the bottom, so you'd have a 24x squared all over 24x to the 4th, and you can reduce it that way as well. But just showing you that reduction process within the multiplication before you actually do it. Rationalizing the denominator means that we want a rational number down here in that denominator. And the way that we do that, since there is just one term down here, you're going to multiply by the thing that gets rid of that square root. And so you're going to multiply by the square root of 3 on the bottom. But of course you have to multiply by the square root of 3 on top as well. And so as that process occurs, that square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is going to equal just 3 on the bottom. And you have 2 square root of 3 in the top. Now that is a rationalized denominator, and that's the key thing that we're looking for. Adding and subtracting fractions, hopefully that is pretty good for you, but you have a common denominator here, of course, for this first example, so 5 and 5, so that's nice. So 2 plus 1 is just 3 over 5, and you're done there. Whereas for the second example, you don't have a common denominator, but you can multiply both the denominator and numerator by 3 here and by 3 up there in order to make that 9. And so this turns into, I don't have a lot of room here to write all this out, but this turns into a 5 over 9 minus a 6 over 9. And so this equals negative 1/9 for that subtraction problem. And then as we finish up with our dividing, remember that if you can divide fractions, that's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So this is going to equal the same thing as 7 over 8 times 12 over 7. That's the way you're going to handle that, which is nice because then those 7's cancel, and that leaves us with 12 over 8. And then that 12 over 8 can reduce because a 4 again is in both of those. So that'd be 3 over 2. And so then that is your answer. So you don't need a calculator to be able to do each of those problems as you try to work on your simplification.